Born Richard Smith Vaughn on April 12, 1919, in Glasgow, Kentucky, Billy Vaughn emerged from modest beginnings to become a central figure in mid-20th century American popular music. The son of a barber with a deep appreciation for melody, Billy's story began in the humblest of surroundings. A small town imbued with the simple rhythms of everyday life and the warmth of community. But even as a toddler, his ears tuned into something greater, something symphonic, long before most children had grasped the alphabet. At the age of 3, while bedridden with measles, Vaughn picked up a mandolin and taught himself to play. This act was more than a child's distraction. It was a prophetic gesture. Music coursed through his veins, and as he grew, so too did his mastery over instruments. He would go on to command not only the mandolin, but also the guitar, piano, and alto saxophone, each becoming a vessel for his creativity. His youth was steeped in the duality of expectation and aspiration. His father, Alvis Radford Vaughn, wanted Billy to take over the family barbershop. Billy respected that vision, but could not resist the gravitational pull of melody and harmony. Even while apprenticing with scissors and razors, he was silently crafting symphonies in his mind, scribbling ideas in the margins of his life. In 1941, the winds of war swept through the United States, and Vaughn, like many young men of his generation, enlisted in the National Guard. What was intended as a brief assignment morphed into a long commitment with the onset of World War II. Rather than being deployed overseas, he was stationed at Camp Shelby, Mississippi, where his musical prowess became his military duty. Major General Daniel I Sultan saw Vaughn not as a soldier, but as a musical asset. At Camp Shelby, he arranged and performed with the 38th Division's big band, refining his skills while providing morale-boosting performances for the troops. By war's end in 1945, Vaughn returned home not as a barber or a soldier, but as a man transformed by discipline, experience, and a sharpened musical mind. Thanks to the GI Bill, he enrolled at Western Kentucky State College, where he formally studied music composition. To support himself, he juggled roles: barber by day, pianist in smoky nightclubs by evening, and student whenever the clock allowed. In the early 1950s, fate took another turn. While at college, Vaughn encountered 3 students, Jimmy Saka, Donald McGuire, and Seymour Spiegelman, who had formed a vocal trio. Sensing his skill, they invited Vaughn to join them as a pianist. It wasn't long before his baritone voice joined theirs, transforming the trio into a quartet known as the Hilltoppers. Their chemistry was immediate and infectious. Vaughn penned "Trying," their breakthrough single in 1952. The song climbed the charts and set them on a course of national recognition. Their harmonies echoed on radios across the country, and for a time, they were among the most recognizable vocal groups of the decade. Between 1952 and 1957, they amassed a string of successful releases. But Vaughn's ambition reached beyond harmonies and pop vocals. He saw something broader on the horizon, something orchestral. In 1954, he amicably parted ways with the Hilltoppers to accept a position as music director at Dot Records in Gallatin, Tennessee. This moment was more than a career shift. It was the ignition of a personal musical revolution. Later that year, he unveiled the Billy Vaughn Orchestra with the single "Melody of Love." The response was explosive. The record sold over 1 million copies and earned a gold disc, propelling Vaughn into a new stratum of success. From that point forward, he would not just interpret music, he would define a genre. His arrangements were instantly recognizable, fluid, lush, and gently rhythmic. His hallmark became the twin saxophone sound, 2 alto saxophones in harmony, often performed by Justin Gordon through overdubbing. It wasn't ostentatious, but it was intoxicating. Vaughn carved a niche for listeners who preferred elegance over brashness, sentiment over spectacle. Songs like "Sail Along, Silvery Moon," La Paloma, and Blue Hawaii dominated not only the American charts, but also found fervent admiration across Europe, Asia, and South America. Sail Along Silvery Moon alone sold over 3 million copies and topped charts in Germany and Japan. In 1961, Wheels ruled the German charts for 14 consecutive weeks and reached #1 in India, New Zealand, and Italy. His version of Michelle soared in Argentina and Malaysia, while Bonanza became a household favorite in Brazil. From 1954 to 1966, Vaughn charted 42 singles on the Billboard Hot 100 and placed 36 albums on the Billboard 200, 5 of which reached the top 10. He was unmatched in the easy listening genre throughout the rock and roll era, a feat few could claim. Vaughn's global reach wasn't limited to record sales. Beginning in 1965, he and his orchestra embarked on extensive tours of Japan, Brazil, and South Korea. These performances were more than concerts. They were cultural phenomena. Audiences flocked to venues, eager to witness the soft-spoken American maestro who had brought serenity to the radio waves. Even as the Beatles surged and psychedelia took hold, Vaughn's melodic serenity remained in demand abroad. He didn't simply perform, he connected. His concerts were immersive, drawing fans into a world where every note was intentional and every pause calculated. In a time when volume and rebellion dominated, Vaughn offered an alternative: refinement. Back home at Dot Records, Vaughn also wielded influence behind the scenes. He arranged music for Pat Boone, the Fontaine Sisters, and Gale Storm, adapting R&B and rock tracks into radio-friendly mainstream hits. Hearts of Stone for the Fontaine Sisters and Ain't That a Shame for Pat Boone became chart toppers, largely due to Vaughn's meticulous orchestrations. Though this role invited criticism from rock purists who felt these arrangements diluted the raw energy of original tracks, there's no denying Vaughn expanded access to music previously confined to segregated genres. He was a bridge, connecting audiences who might otherwise have never crossed the divide between country, pop, R&B, and orchestral stylings. In the public eye, Vaughn was the image of elegance. But behind the curtain, he was a husband, a father, and a man of quiet convictions. In 1943, while still in military service, he married Marion Olive Smith. Their union would last nearly 5 decades. The couple had 3 children, and Vaughn remained deeply devoted to his family, often choosing stability and privacy over the limelight. Despite his fame, he was known for humility. He never indulged in excess or scandal. While contemporaries courted controversy, Vaughn focused on arranging the perfect harmony or experimenting with tonal textures in the studio. Those who worked alongside him described a man of few words, always focused, often lost in thought, and never satisfied with good enough. He spent his later years in Palm Springs, California, a serene enclave befitting a man whose music evoked calm and contemplation. Though his chart presence waned in the 1970s, he continued to record and tour selectively, never abandoning his craft. In the twilight of his life, Vaughn was diagnosed with peritoneal mesothelioma, a rare and aggressive cancer often linked to asbestos exposure. Despite the grave prognosis, he faced his illness with the same grace that had defined his music. He passed away on September 26, 1991, at Palomar Hospital in Escondido, California. He was 72. He was buried at Oak Hill Memorial Park in North Hollywood, beside Marion, who had stood by him through every crescendo and decrescendo of their shared life. His passing was marked not by elaborate fanfare, but by the quiet mourning of millions who had found comfort in his melodies. Billy Vaughn didn't chase fads. He didn't sculpt his identity around rebellion or reinvention. Instead, he committed to crafting beauty through balance, harmony, and tone. In doing so, he became a fixture in homes, radios, and hearts across generations and continents. Long after his death, the Billy Vaughn Orchestra continues to perform, now under the direction of his son, Richard Vaughn, Jr. Their tours, particularly in Japan, still draw enthusiastic crowds, audiences who were raised on the orchestral warmth that only Billy could deliver. His catalog remains widely distributed, and compilations of his work frequently chart in markets where his original records once dominated. From ballroom collections to smooth jazz playlists, his sound endures, not because it shouts to be heard, but because it whispers the familiar language of comfort, elegance, and peace. Billy Vaughn's success was never about bombast. It was about knowing exactly what his audience needed and delivering it with understated brilliance. He offered a different kind of musical escapism, not one of rebellion, but of rest. His orchestral arrangements, his velvet saxophone harmonies, his refined direction at Dot Records, all of it contributed to an era when music didn't always need words to move people. While critics debated genres and record executives chased trends, Vaughn sat at his piano, gently guiding the next arrangement into life, and through his fingers a world was composed, one of quiet roads, soft winds, and the gentle hum of nostalgia.